You all slogged your way here through the waves of heat, and I really appreciate that. I also appreciate that Reverend Tamara, who has been my friend for at least 20 years, because we were religious educators 20 years ago and members of our national organization. Lorraine, hello, how are you? Another former religious educator, probably still knowing how important that is for our congregation's lifespan, religious education. And I see other people here who I've worked with, like Jim, and of course John, and Eric, and Janet, and there are so many people in this congregation, as you know, but maybe you need to be reminded sometimes too that make this service happen. It's an incredible congregation. It's like my favorite congregation to visit, even though I visited 36 congregations. And I love the spirited music we sang this morning, and it did remind me of Thomas, and he was the first minister who invited me a zillion years ago to preach in his congregation in Washington State, so we go a long way back. This reading is from the Reverend Dana Worstop. Some of you may know her. She's the minister of the Ventura congregation. She says, I want to be with people. Often people say they love coming to a place with so many like-minded people. I know what they're getting at, and I know what they aren't getting right. I don't want to be with a bunch of people who think just like me. I want to be in a beloved community where I don't have to think like everybody else to be accepted, to be eligible for salvation. I want to be with people who value compassion and love and justice and truth, though they may have different thoughts and opinions about those things. I want to be with independent-minded people of good heart. I want to be with people who have many names for God and no names at all for God. I want to be with people who see in me the goodness and dignity, who also see my failings and my foibles, but they still love me. I want to be with people who feel an inner connection with all existence and all the footfalls on the earth. I want to be with people who see life as a paradox and don't always rush to solve it. I want to be with people who are willing to walk that tightrope that is life and hold my hand as they walk with me and I walk with them. I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being in the world. I want to be with people who support and encourage and even challenge each other to higher thinking, ethical living. I want to be with people who inspire one another to follow the call of the Spirit. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold the promises for me that we make. I want to be with people who give of themselves, who share their hearts and minds as their gifts. I want to be with people who know that the human community is often warm and generous, sometimes challenging, and always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you. Thank you. Welcome and welcome home. Jan, I bet you're very happy to see Stephen here, continuing a wonderful tradition of lifting up religious education. I loved meeting him this morning, and his story was great. And I'm watching our AV people back there. I didn't mention Marty and Michael. Thank you so much. Yeah, without them, think of what we would be missing. And Kristen is just the most professional and loving worship associate someone could ask for. So, and if I forget anybody else, I'll try to remember as I move through this. Yeah, I'll be 70 in November, and I'm beginning to lose names. So if you will, close your eyes and take a deep breath. You can relax by letting your jaws open slightly. This allows your face to be soft and your eyes to soften as well. Let your shoulders drop. Yes, let them drop more. Settle into your chair now as it supports you as you breathe in and you breathe out. This is from a favorite professor of mine, the Reverend Richard Gilbert. He says, life is always unfinished business. In the midst of the whirling day, in the hectic rush to be doing, in the frantic pace of life, pause here for a moment. Catch your breath Relax your body. Loosen your grip on life. Consider that our lives are always unfinished business. Imagine that the picture of our being is never complete. Allow your life to be a work in progress. Do not hurry to mold the masterpiece. Do not rush to finish the picture. Do not be impatient to complete your drawing. From beckoning birth to dawning death, we are in process, and there is always more to be done. Do not let the incompleteness weigh on your spirit. Do not despair that imperfection marks your every day. Do not fear that we are still in the making. Let us instead be grateful that the world is still to be created. Let us give thanks that we can be more than we are. Let us celebrate the power of the incomplete. After the premiere of the TV show Cheers, the writers went back to the studio to record a longer version of the song. Immediately it made the US and British pop charts, received an Emmy nomination in 1983 for Outstanding Achievement in Music and Lyrics, and in 2011's Reader's Poll in the Rolling Stone magazine, the song was voted the best television theme of all time. In 2013, the editors of TV Guide magazine named Where Everybody Knows Your Name the greatest TV theme of all time. Now, I don't think it was just because that song is so tuneful. I think it's because we really want to go where everybody knows our name. For those who did not watch the TV show, how many watched the TV show? Yay, there's enough of us here who did. Cheers was all about a nice little Boston bar where owner Sam Malone, a former baseball star, and a slew of regulars, Norm, Cliff, Dr. Fraser, Clara, Woody, get together every day for a few hours. They talk about life's problems. They laugh at each other's flaws, and they support each other in times of trouble, a little like our joys and sorrows. For those who did watch the show, I was a real fan. I just learned you can still see it live streamed online from CBS. Of course, wanting to do due diligence for the congregation, for the service, I have to admit I watched all 10 free videos. And you can sign up and you can watch all 275 of them, but you have to pay for it. So, if you've watched the show, do you recall when an episode begins, a big burly guy comes through the door and says something like, "Hey everybody," and they yell back, "Hi, Norm." Every single time I watch those shows, that brings a smile to my face, a tug at my heart. I'm pulled into the story because now the story is mine. I'm Norm. I used to have a really great name for memory for names, or name for memories. In my younger days, when I was a religious educator for a church, at 150 children. Remember those days, Jan? Huge RE programs. I not only remembered their names, I remembered their parents' names, I remembered their pets' names. Alas, no more. This is one of the first things to go. I don't remember people's names. And even here, people that I remember and I've met before, I'm so glad when you're wearing your name tag. And those of you who I would love to meet, I hope I have a chance to see you at coffee hour. I'd like to invite you, as you're comfortable now, to join in a little exercise. Don't worry, there are no memory tests that will be given. If you would like to participate in a few moments, I would like you to pair up with someone. It could be someone that you don't know as well, but if it's too uncomfortable for you to get up and move, you can sit next to the person who you know well. And if there are people who are not mobile and who want someone to come to them, if they'll raise their hand, they'll let people know that they would like to engage in this. So, I'm going to ring a little chime after you were with your partner, and after the chime is rung, one half of the partnership, so you can just move around now, go right ahead. So, you all are so friendly. You're going to, when I hit the chime, one person in your duo is going to tell the other person something about your name. It could be your first name, middle name, last name, nickname. I'm going to ring the chime again, and you're going to switch. And then when you switch, the other person is going to say something about your name to the other person. Any questions?
About your own name? You're talking about
Your own name. So if my name is Fred, I may say I was named after my father, or I don't like the name Fred and I'd like to be named Stan from now on. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to begin. Switch. So sorry to bring this to an end, but it's not the end. You'll be able to continue these conversations at our coffee and tea and goodies time together. Isn't that fun? And then who do we want to have people, what do we want people to know about us? One of the first things we want them to remember is our name. Here's another tidbit about the Cheers Bar. Founded in 1969 as the Bull and Finch Club, this fun, dark-paneled pub, inspiration for the television program, is just a couple of blocks from 25 Beacon Street, which was the UUA headquarters for a long time. They knew us at the bar, and we knew them well. They knew our leaders by name, and we knew their names as well. And here's my Cheers mug. I spent a lot of time there when I was back there for various activities at the UUA, so cheers. I drink my coffee out of it in the morning.
what's the other side?
Oh, cheers. Here it is, yeah. Boston. So speaking of church, I guess I'm always speaking of church. I love church. If I weren't a minister, I'd be an active UU leader, lay leader, and I will be again someday. Probably teach Sunday school, maybe, or volunteer in social justice, which is near and dear to my heart, or perhaps sing in the choir. By the way, Did you know that singing with others releases pleasure-producing endorphins, as well as oxytocin, which lowers stress and wards off anxiety and depression? How many people in the choir are here? Hey, look at those choir members who come even on a Sunday. They're not singing in choir, and that's why the voices sound so wonderful also. Can you imagine if they weren't singing together? Can you imagine this wild and unruly group moving through Santa Barbara looking for a group to sing with? But here they have the opportunity to increase their endorphins and be friends and befriend all of you. Also, singing with others bonds people together in unique ways. Quite literally, it turns out, studies show that heartbeats of those singing together regularly sync up with the music and sync up with each other. I think that's pretty incredible. Feelings of connection and trust arise when you are singing together. Group singing has been shown to lessen feelings of loneliness, which is what we do here several times every single Sunday. Thank you, John, and choir, and your wonderful soloists. Of course, we've all heard that the percentage of the population attending church has drastically declined. Churches and religious organizations are struggling to know why and what we might do about it. From these studies, they have come to some interesting conclusions. They found that it is not a lack of belief in something someone would call God. In fact, surveys repeatedly tell us that people still do believe in something larger than themselves, by whatever name they give it. One of the biggest reasons, it seems, is that people report they're too busy. And many say they are getting their social needs met in other ways. But that might not be so true. They may not have the social connection of community at all. And that's a problem. More people report that they are lonelier than ever. When asked if they have people in their lives with whom they could confide, who they knew they could call and would be there at a moment's notice, who they could share their joys and sorrows with, they would sing with and picnic with, they don't even know maybe more than one or two people. And they don't know the names of the people who are in their larger communities as well. You may have read, too, about the horrible rise in addictions in our population, drugs and alcohol and other addictions. One of the most likely causes for addictions is loneliness. In an experiment, a rat is put in a cage, all alone. It has nothing to do but drink a drugged little vial, water, drip feeder in its cage. In another cage, one rather lush, filled with colorful balls and tunnels through which to scamper, and plenty of other rats. Everything a rat about town could want. It also had a drip feed of drugs and another drip feed with just water in it. The startling thing was that the rats with the good lives, all the fun little balls and tunnels, and the other rats, didn't like the drugged water at all. The experimenters thought this might be a quirky thing with this particular group of rats, but they thought that maybe akin to human development as well, a human equivalent. During the Vietnam War, Time magazine reported the use of heroin was as common as chewing gum among the U.S. soldiers. A full 20% of the soldiers were addicted to heroin when they came home, but it seems that 95% of them stopped. Few went to rehab. It seems that they shifted from a terrifying cage that was war, like the rat did, alone with just that little drugged drip feeder, to a pleasant one. And this is what is so interesting to me. This discovery is a profound challenge to both the right-wing view that addiction is a moral failing caused by too much hedonistic partying, and that the liberal view as well, that addiction is a disease taking place in a chemically hijacked brain, are wrong. In fact, it's argued addiction is an adaptation. Addiction is not you. Addiction is your cage. So the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. It is human connection. Why not just go hiking with friends and commune with nature? instead of coming to church. Or join some other social or civic organization. That's just as good, isn't it? Well, for one thing, there are not that many of the old civic organizations around anymore. The Moose and the Elks, all those kinds of civic organizations. And church provides all the benefits of all the organizations under one roof. There are certainly non-church folks who attend these other organizations who are self-motivated, and they find tireless ways to serve the community. But many of us find we don't follow through on serving the community in particular unless we are with people who encourage us in our charitable ideas and our actions. We're encouraged to do that with people from our church. Perhaps here we are encouraging what I like to call that something larger than ourselves, by whatever name you want to call it, for a purpose much larger than ourselves. We engage in social justice because it is the right thing to do, and we do it with others. It is not necessarily something we grasp because of a reason. It is something we grasp because of our hearts. A. Powell Davies, one of our most famous Unitarian ministers, great speaker, renowned social and political activist and leader, who spurred the growth of our faith in the 1950s, said, "Church is the place where we go to grow our souls. Church is the place we go to grow our souls." In my reading about why people do go to church, much of what was found was in Christian blogs. Of course, reasons were about statements of faith, of belief in God, of taking the sacraments, but there was much, much more in these blogs about connection with other people. One young woman's story could just as well have been told by anyone in this room. She mentioned coming to church, to the church building, hearing her name called out, "Hi, Norm," followed by a hug, both of which are really placeholders for the conversations that unfold at the coffee hour or next week or next month, or by the phone or by email. We engage, she said, in the small talk that precedes heart talk. She continues saying going to church kind of bugs her because we don't go to church, we are church. And even though it's messy and imperfect, and even though sometimes I've let them down, and even though sometimes there are disappointments, even though I don't agree with everybody all the time, I don't think we need an official Sunday morning thing to be part of coming to church. Because coming to church, we cross a lot of our self-made boundaries. I keep choosing this family out of hope and joy. Does that sound familiar to those of you who are here? She mentions, too, to reclaim the heritage of her faith is why she goes, Christianity. We could just as well be keeping alive the heritage of Unitarian Universalism by coming here and being together. And finally, and these two reasons mean a lot to me, she says, even when she falls short of her own ideals, she can practice, she can learn, and she can start again. It's amazing grace. And people here, she says, number 2, can pray for you. Even in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, to me this applies to lighting our candles of joys and sorrows, to see where we line up to share them verbally with each other, and when we hear each other into being. In this broken and often disheartening world, this church, this intentional community, this plain old church feels like a radical act of faith and sometimes like a spiritual discipline. When we show up, when we talk with each other, we listen, we light candles, we sing together, we have coffee and cake and goodies. We remember who we are as a people, and as a people of faith, as a people who know life is worth living. We do this because we are the love people. We who stay together, and who will find our way. Come to church every Sunday that you're able, where everybody knows your name, and we're awfully glad you came. Amen, and blessed be.
Nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you've got to do is call, and I'll be there, yes I will. You've got a friend. If the sky above you should turn dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind should begin to fall, keep your head together and call my name out loud, and soon I'll be knocking upon your door. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you've got to do is call, and I'll be there, yes I will. Hey, ain't it good to know that you've got a friend when people can be so cold? They'll hurt you and desert you. They'll take your soul if you let them. Oh, but don't you let them. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you've got to do is call, and I'll be there, yes I will. You've got a friend. You've got a friend. You've got a friend. Ain't it good to know you've got a friend? Oh yeah, you've got a friend.
We'll join hands. I see you are already doing that. And I have to tell you, while you're doing that, you guys were as good, and John was as great on the piano as when I did this at the Santa Monica congregation, where there were 450 people there. And the women that were singing with me were from the African American Negro Spiritual Gospel Movement of Washington, D.C., or something like that. And they had the big headdresses on, and we were just rocking the place. You guys rock this place. Absolutely. The purpose of this community, if you are who you were, and the next person to you is who she or he was when you came here, if nothing has changed since the day we showed up, we failed. The purpose of this community, any church, temple, zendo, mosque, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown, in ourselves and one another, in the other, whomever the other for us might be, however hard that might be, because these encounters have many gifts to offer. So may you go forth from here this morning, not who you were when you came, but who you could be. So may we all. If you'll remain standing, we'll sing together the congregational response as we leave this friendly place. And then please remain seated so we can hear whatever gem it is that John has to offer for our postlude.
That I do believe I love you, and if I should ever go away, well then close your eyes and try to feel the way we do today. And then if you can remember, keep smiling, keep shining, knowing you can always count on me. For sure, that's what friends are for good times and bad times. I'll be on your side forevermore. That's what friends are for. Well, you came and opened me, and now there's so much more I see. And so, by the way, I thank you. And then, for the times when we're apart, well, then close your eyes and know those words are coming from my heart. And then, if you can remember, keep smiling, keep shining, knowing you can always count on me. For sure, that's what friends are for good times and bad times. I'll be on your side forevermore. That's what friends are for. Everybody, keep smiling, keep shining, knowing you can always count on me. For sure, that's what friends are for good times and bad times. I'll be on your side forevermore. That's what friends are for. Keep smiling, keep shining, knowing you can always count on me. For sure, that's what friends are for good times and bad times. I'll be on your side forevermore. That's what friends are.